Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to everyone joining us via Zoom, Facebook Live, YouTube, and the Jewish Broadcasting Service. I'm Michal Divon, and I'm delighted to once again be your MC for the continuing series of Diverse Israel Bonds virtual events. Now, this is a very special day for every one of Israel's friends and supporters throughout the world. Today, the Circle of Peace expanded as two more Arab nations, the United Arab Emirates and the Kingdom of Bahrain, signed agreements with Israel at the White House. Later in our program, we will have first-hand impressions of the ceremony from Bond's president and CEO, Israel Maimon, and Israel Embassy spokesperson Elad Strohmeyer, both of whom were at the White House to witness history firsthand. Now, as we anticipate the onset of Rosh Hashanah, now only 72 hours away, well, Israel Bonds has developed the perfect program, an all-encompassing, deeply moving exploration of the Kotel and what it means to us all. Over the course of our program, we will hear from prominent public figures, be inspired by Slichot prayers, and sing Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, Jerusalem of Gold, with Shuli Natan, the woman who made it world famous. There's so much more. We'll have an intimate encounter with the family of paratrooper Yitzchak Yifat, a hero of the Six-Day War, and, well, someone that you also know, the family of a paratrooper, a hero of the Six-Day War, and culminate our program with a stirring performance of Somewhere Over the Rainbow by award-winning Israeli vocalist David Deor. Throughout the evening, you will see phone numbers and websites for Israel Bonds in the US, Canada, and abroad to assist you in making an investment in Israel Bonds. Israel Bonds registered representatives in the US are ready to assist those of you in the United States right now, and they will continue to be available until 10 p.m. New York time. Now, with the full and extensive program awaiting us, it's time to begin. I call on new leadership co-chair Jason Langsner for the introduction of Jerusalem Mayor Moshe Lion.
Thank you, Michal. Good evening and Shana Tova to all. On behalf of my new leadership co-chair, Terry Herbsman, who's also on tonight's program, I want to express our shared pride in representing the young generation of Israel Bonds supporters. It's a special privilege for both of us. At a time of year when our thoughts are naturally turned to Israel and Jerusalem, the words of Mayor Lion are sure to inspire. He assumed office in December 2018, following a distinguished career in the private sector and in government, serving in 1999 as director of the Prime Minister's office and also as economic advisor in the government of Benjamin Netanyahu. Among other positions, he was chairman of Israel Railways and chairman of the Jerusalem Development Authority. Today, he is mayor of a multifaceted city that is not only the physical capital of Israel, but also the spiritual capital of the worldwide Jewish people. I invite you to listen to New Year's greetings from Jerusalem Mayor Moshe Lion.
To all my dear friends at Israel Bonds, to Israel Maimon and all the wonderful team, I send you all my deepest wishes for a happy and above all, healthy new year. I don't think we could ever have imagined what these past 6 months would bring us. When we think back to our prayers on Rosh Hashanah, Avinu Malkenu, Mena Magefa Minachalatecha, God, please keep us safe from pledges. These words speak to us now more than ever. From here in Jerusalem, where we have paid a high price these last months, I want to send my prayers and support to all of you in your communities where now you have also seen very dark times. Friends, you are not just friends of Israel. You are partners in Israel. You understand that we all have the responsibility to each other. Kol Israel Arevim זה לזה. So I thank you for your support through good times and bad, and I'm excited to see where our cooperation will take us next year and in the future. Together with your support, we can be sure that Jerusalem and Israel will continue to go from strength to strength. Friends, to you and all your families, Shana Tova veMetuka, a sweet and happy new year. My will be written in the book of life.
Thank you, Mayor. Jerusalem is perhaps the most unique city in the entire world, a modern capital, a place of faith for the three monotheistic religions, and an ancient city that abounds in endless surprises and discoveries. One of Jerusalem's most amazing discoveries was Robinson's Ark along the Western Wall. And tonight, we all get to be archaeologists as we learn more about this remarkable site, courtesy of the Israel Antiquities Authority. Please watch, learn, and be amazed as we uncover this important aspect not only of Jerusalem's history, but our Jewish heritage as well.
Hi, my name is Dr. Joe Uziel of the Israel Antiquities Authority. We're standing just inside the Dung Gate, and if you arrived in Jerusalem once upon a time, you probably marched straight up this way to head towards the Western Wall Plaza, the prayer area at the foot of the Temple Mount. But if you would just take a small detour as we're about to do, we will walk into a whole new world. If we imagine ourselves arriving at a sports game in modern times, not everyone can come into the same entrance, and the same was true of the Temple Mount 2,000 years ago. You had various entrances for different sectors of the population. Certain people would have been allowed only in certain areas, and so you have the general entrances for the Jewish people, you have entrances for the women, you have entrances for the non-Jewish people who would have also taken part in the ceremonies, and you have entrances for the priestly people that would have been in charge of conducting the ceremonies. But all this is very, very short-lived, and in 70 CE, this huge pile of stones that you see behind me are the remains of the collapse of both the upper parts of the Western Wall and the arch itself, which came slamming down onto the street when the Romans destroyed the city after 4 years of rebellion by the Jewish people. Despite this destruction, many of the remains, because they were so finely built, remain standing to this day, and the most outstanding of these remains is the walls of the Temple Mount, which is the beating heart of the city, from 2,000 years ago and running all the way up to modern times with the Temple Mount on top of them. And these walls are now currently under the conservation of the Israel Antiquities Authority, who have been using the most cutting-edge technologies in order to monitor each and every stone that is on this wall, regardless of the period, and basically give it its own ID number. And through this ID number, they map the different situation of each stone and know what to do in order to preserve it and conserve it for future generations. As we walk onto this scaffolding, you can see the finely cut stones with the borders trimmed out. This is very, very typical of the Herodian period 2,000 years ago, and so we know when these stones were placed here. And if you notice, each and every row of stones moves in slightly further because this is in essence a support wall. So it's built on a slant and it goes in slightly, leaning inward to support the podium on top of it. And as we climb this scaffolding, we'll see the different periods of use of the Temple Mount, because after the destruction in 70 CE, the walls were then repaired in order to reuse the Temple Mount and re-inhabit it. And so we have different phases, and of course, on the top of this scaffolding, Robinson's Arch, or what remains of it, which are the Springer stone leaving the wall in order to form the arch, which would have held one of the entrances into the Temple Mount. We've now climbed to the toppest part of the scaffolding against the western wall, and as you can see here, the work of our conservation team, including conservationists, engineers, to make sure that the wall is made perfectly steady. You can see the filling in between the stones to hold everything up so that nothing can collapse, and so that this remains to be seen for another 2,000 years. I must say, as an archaeologist, this is a very exciting moment for me personally, because right now I am touching the Springer stone of Robinson's Arch. Robinson's Arch, one of the arches which held an entrance to the Temple Mount. And you need to imagine to yourselves that right here was one of the entrances, one of the gateways into the Temple Mount 2,000 years ago, where people would have entered, arriving in Jerusalem, climbing along the street that we spoke about, and entering here to take part in the festivities on the Temple Mount. And as an archaeologist working here for 10 years, I've been waiting for this moment where I can touch Robinson's Arch, which hasn't been touched for 60 years. So this is a very, very exciting moment, and I hope that when it's made possible that you can come out and see the work being done and touch the stones that are being preserved by the Israel Antiquities Authority.
Shana Tova, my name is Izzy Steckler, and I am a co-chair of the Israel Bonds New Leadership Division in Montreal. Slichot prayers are composed from biblical verses culminating in the declaration of the 13 attributes of God. These prayers for forgiveness begin with prayers of confession, through which we declare our sins and imperfections to each other and to God. Jewish tradition teaches that confession is always followed by forgiveness, because this is what God desires most. The relationship between prayer and forgiveness lies at the heart of the Slichot service. In 2019, over 100,000 worshipers participated in Slichot prayers at the Kotel. This year, although participation is strictly limited due to the pandemic and social distancing measures are in place, it is still remarkable to observe. So let's all watch this unique aspect of our heritage.
Salam Gil.
I think I can speak for everyone when I say how deeply moved we were by that poignant ceremony from the Western Wall in Jerusalem, the Kotel. To continue our theme of unity and inclusiveness for the coming year, let's listen to blessings recited by Rabbi Sam Klibanoff of Congregation Eitz Chaim in Livingston, New Jersey, and Rabbi Aaron Flansreich of Beth Shalom Synagogue in Toronto.
Hello friends, my name is Samuel Klibanoff, the Rabbi of Congregation Eitz Chaim in Livingston, New Jersey. I also serve as the chair of the National Rabbinic Advisory Council for Israel Bonds. I want to take this opportunity to wish all of our Israel Bonds community a happy, a healthy, a prosperous, and a year of bonding for 5781. Thank you.
I am Rabbi Aaron Flansreich from the Beth Shalom Synagogue in Toronto, Ontario. On behalf of my family and myself, I want to wish the State of Israel, the people of Israel, and our entire Israel Bonds family a sweet, happy, and most healthy New Year.
Ladies and gentlemen, throughout 72 years of independence, we have been awed by countless iconic photos tracing the remarkable arc of the modern Jewish state. Among the most unforgettable photos of all is the one taken by famed photographer David Rubinger, who poignantly captured IDF paratroopers gazing in awe at the newly liberated Kotel. At the center of that photo, with his helmet off and contemplating the miracle of the Kotel's return to the Jewish people, is Yitzchak Ifat. Dr. Ifat is now 77 years old. We thank him for his service to his country and wish him and his family health and Shana Tova. Israel Bonds arranged for an interview with Dr. Ifat's daughter, Reut Ifat Uziel, so let's immerse ourselves in this amazing moment in Israel's history.
אנחנו יושבים על הרכס שצופה אל העיר העתיקה. אנחנו נהיה הראשונים להיכנס אליה. לנוע אל השער. אנחנו הולכים ומעמיקים לתוך העיר העתיקה. הר הבית בידינו, כאן תלמיד, הר הבית בידינו. לראות תאיב שבא לכל הכבוד.
My father was born in 43 in Tel Aviv, in Israel. And my mom was born also in Israel, but in Rishon. So every year when I remember, since I remember myself, it was to go in with my father and mother to Jerusalem Day, in Jerusalem Day, to visit and to meet all the units from the Tzanchanim and to play with them, like, you know, little child going around them. And all the people, or a lot of important people to talk with my father, like Yitzhak Rabin, and after it was Ehud Barak, and I mean, it's to live with names that after it you see on TV, but you live with them and they talk about the Israel that used to be when I was a little child. And even in the bat mitzvah trip when I was a little child, or about 12 years old, we visited New York, and someone with a number in her hand came to my father and asked him if she can ask him something, and she asked him about the photo. A lot of people go in and tell, hey, you're the man? And they recognize and talk to him. I see my father a lot, and my father has a very important and influential relationship with my 3 little boys. And also William said, my grandfather fight for Jerusalem, the wall, it's important to us. Kotel חשוב לנו. Israel is very important to my father and to my family, and I think to every Jewish person in the world. Although my father is not a religious man, but it's our country. Jerusalem is important to us, and it was very emotional that day, although he always said that he didn't cry. And he told us that because of, you know, the wall, it's very big place, big emotional place, and if you will ask him about it, in every interview he said that it was emotional moment. He called it a רגע אלוהי, because you don't need to be religious to figure it out that it's, and to think about what happened to the Jewish world, a tradition, and why it's very important to us, the Kotel.
Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, welcome to my own studio. This is composer, conductor, and pianist Gil Shochat. Good to see you again. For the occasion of the New Jewish Year, Rosh Hashanah, we are happy to perform for you a special musical program that we have prepared specially for you. And I'm so honored and blessed to host in my own studio the legendary Shuli Natan.
Thank you, Gil.
For the performance of Jerusalem of Gold by Naomi Shemer. You all know this song. This is like the unofficial anthem of the State of Israel. This song is sung by millions of singers around the world and thousands of professional singers, and it's the second most translated song in the history of music after Yesterday by Beatles. And today we have the original singer, not only the first singer that ever sang it in the world premiere of the song, but also the singer that Naomi Shemer, the writer of the song, dedicated the song to, Shuli Natan.
Dear friends in the bond, I'm delighted to sing for you for the coming new, hopefully very blessed year. צלול כיין וריח אורנים נישא ברוח ארבעים עם כל פעמונים ובתרדמת אילן ואבן שבויה בחלומה העיר אשר בדד יושבת ובליבה חומה ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור חזרנו אל בורות המים לשוק ולכיכר שופר קורא בהר הבית בעיר העתיקה ובמערות אשר בסלע אלפי שמשות זורחות נשוב נרד אל ים המלח בדרך יריחו ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור אך בבואי היום לשיר לך ולך לקשור כתרים קטונתי מצעיר בנייך ומאחרון המשוררים כי שמך צורבת השפתיים כי נשיקת שרף אם אשכחך ירושלים אשר כולה זהב ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני
Hello, my name is Terry Herbstman. I, along with Jason Langsner, am the co-chair of the National New Leadership Division and the Chicago New Leadership Chair. This evening has been so emotionally powerful for me and my family, and I know for all of you. It truly underscores why we all have become involved with Israel Bonds. If I could sum up the meaning of Israel Bonds involvement in just one word, it would be connection. How could it be otherwise? By investing in Israel Bonds, we are connecting with Jerusalem, our heritage, a strong, dynamic Jewish state, and Israel's undaunted, resilient people. Investing in Israel Bonds at any time is a wonderful means of supporting Israel, but doing so during the high holidays takes on an added context. When you invest in Israel Bonds during this special time of year, You are not only establishing a personal connection with Israel, you are making your own expression of confidence in the potential and future of the world's only Jewish state. U.S. participants can express their intent to invest in Israel bonds via the virtual tab card in the High Holidays section of israelbonds.com or by calling the number on the screen. Others can receive information via the applicable websites and phone numbers being displayed. Registered representatives can answer all of your investment questions and provide you with documents and forms. Don't forget the added value of Israel bonds, whereby you can donate them to favorite causes or give them as gifts for simchas for every kind. Thank you all, and Shana Tova.
Thank you so much, Terry. We will now have a special moment of spirituality as we view blessings for the new year from rabbis throughout the world. Incidentally, you won't want to miss what comes afterwards. First-hand reports on today's groundbreaking signing at the White House. It will be a moment to remember, an event that will shape the course of Israel's destiny. Now, please watch the rabbis.
Meu nome é Yossi Alpen, sou rabino do Beit Chabad Central, São Paulo, Brasil. Queria desejar Shana Tová Umetuká para todo o Am Israel, para toda a humanidade, especialmente para todos esses que apoiam Israel, a terra sobre a qual consta na Torá, Eretz Asher Tamid Enei Hashem Elokecha Ba Mereshit Shana V'ad Acharit Shana, a terra sobre a qual os olhos de Deus está lá sobre ela desde o início do ano até o fim do ano. Que seja um ano muito doce, um ano de 5781, muito feliz, com saúde e alegria para todos.
As Chief Rabbi of the United Hebrew Congregations of the Commonwealth, I'm delighted to extend to the State of Israel, to our Israel Bonds family, and to everyone right around the globe my very best wishes for blessing, success, peace, prosperity, and good health during 5781. Lishana Tova Umituka. May Almighty God bless us all with a happy and sweet new year.
Queridos hombres y mujeres de la familia de Israel Bonds, les habla el rabino Shlomo Tawil, rabino principal de la comunidad Maguen David. En este caso, para saludarlos, me dirijo a ustedes, tengo el honor de hablar con ustedes y enviarles este pequeño mensaje, deseándoles que este año sea próspero, sea un año de verajá. Está difícil la situación, sin embargo todos estamos con Eretz Israel, todos amamos a la tierra de Israel y tenemos la comunidad de Pina, un enlace muy especial, un kesher amití, tenemos con Medinat Israel. Por eso les deseamos que todas las verajot de la Torá se posen ustedes, mujeres y hombres que trabajan en Israel Bonds y todos los que se ocupan de levantar la tierra de Israel. Verajá en todo, que Tibaba Hatimatova, y un saludo muy grande para ustedes. Muchas gracias.
Ladies and gentlemen, Finance Minister Israel Katz, who planned on joining us, had to send his regrets due to the cabinet's decision to reimpose a nationwide lockdown due to COVID-19. However, today's unprecedented signings enabled us to add a last-minute component to the program. And for that, I turn the proceedings over to Los Angeles Advisory Council member Scott Beiser.
Ladies and gentlemen, this evening has focused on history spanning thousands of years, the history of Jerusalem, and the intertwined history of our people. Today, modern history was made at a dramatic White House ceremony. Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and the Kingdom of Bahrain signed normalization agreements. The ceremony marked the onset of what we profoundly hope is the dawn of an extraordinary new era in the Middle East. In keeping with the magnitude of the event, we are exceptionally fortunate to receive live reports from both Israel Bond President and CEO Israel Maimon and Israel Embassy spokesperson Elad Strohmeyer, who has served in that capacity since July 2018. It's been a forward-looking, transformative day, and we are gratified that we will hear two eyewitness perspectives. First, let's watch Israel's reflection on this amazing day, after which he will join us live.
I'm addressing you just seconds after the ceremonies ended in the White House. I am so excited, thrilled, really moved for being here. I've been here as the president of Israel Bonds, and I represented all of you, our staff of Israel Bonds, and our lay leaders, and our investors. The atmosphere here, as you can see, it's amazing. You meet so many people. Normal relation with other Arab citizens. I know. It's so exciting. And it's so important for the region. As you heard the speeches today, they said it, meaning the Arab representatives said it. It's just after so many years that the Middle East is such chaos and wars. It's a new hope. It's a new time. And it's so great to be here in the White House to celebrate it. When Israel is strong, strength brings security. Strength brings allies. And eventually, strength brings peace. And all of you, Israel Bond supporters, make Israel strong. For your investment, you make Israel strong. So I want to thank you from here, from the White House. Thank you so very much for your investment in Israel Bonds.
Israel, we all felt your excitement on representing Israel Bonds at the ceremony. Tell us more about this outstanding day. Well, I think your words left us speechless. Thank you, Israel. What an exciting day. I now ask Gilad to share his impressions.
Shalom, everybody, and it's great to be with you. I'm talking to you from the Blair House, the official residence, the official guest residence of the President of the United States, where the Prime Minister of Israel is currently staying. I was in the White House today. I was accompanying the visit and the journalist, and it was truly an historic day to witness this exciting ceremony. I must say that this is a celebrated day, and every celebration came with very hard work, and this is the hard work of the Israeli diplomats, of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, all the officials from the government of Israel, from the embassy, from other government agencies that worked tirelessly for the success of this event and to bring peace in the Middle East, the Abraham Accords. Israel had amazing undercover relations with many countries in the Gulf area that we couldn't speak about them openly. And today we could finally come out and celebrate the friendship and the relations that we can establish and enhance between Israel and the United Arab Emirates and with Bahrain. And I think it's symbolic that today, on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, as we're about to celebrate the high holidays, the new beginnings, we see this new beginning, the beginning of peace. With that, I want to say also that sitting today on the south lawn of the White House and watching the ceremony, during the ceremony, we all received the notifications of rockets being fired at Israel from Gaza. And that was a reminder that we still have a long way to go for peace, and we need to work hard for that. While we have the ability to stretch our hand in peace to our neighbors, we still need to remember that we have our neighbors that don't want to stretch their hands to us, and we will not be deterred. We will fight terrorism, and we will continue reach our hands in peace. And I want to say a personal word. I want to thank you, the bonds people, the people who invest in Israel, the people who invest in the future of Israel, because everything that we can achieve is achievable with your help and your support. And people who know me know that I say it a lot. I'm not allowed to fundraise or to ask money for any organization, but Israel Bond is not a fundraising. Israel Bond is an investment. You invest in Israel, you invest in the future of the state of Israel, you invest in the future of the Jewish people, and you also invest in yourself because it's good investment for you. And your investment is enabling historic events like this, is enabling building a better Israeli society and bringing peace in the Middle East. I really want to thank you for joining us on this historic day. We're waiting for the Prime Minister Mordecai to go to the airport and depart back to Israel. So truly, that was a remarkable achievement that we saw today. And I'll finish my short remarks with sharing something that was evident today during the ceremony. As spokesperson of the embassy, I accompanied the journalist that joined the delegation to cover it. And we were with the Israeli journalist outside at the entrance to the White House, already in the perimeter, and there was also the journalist delegation from Bahrain and the journalist delegation from the UAE. One of the Israeli journalists stood next to a journalist from the UAE, and they started broadcasting together, and she all of a sudden interviewed him, and we saw peace in its essence, not just words between the leaders, not just a remarkable speech by the Prime Minister or by the Foreign Minister of the UAE or the Foreign Minister of Bahrain, but we saw peace between the people, between two journalists. And I think this is what's going to be remarkable in this peace. It's going to be peace of the people. Personally, can't wait to fly to UAE and Bahrain and visit these beautiful countries. And I wish that Emirati people and Bahraini can come and visit Israel and enjoy our beautiful country. So again, thank you for having me. It was a great pleasure speaking to you tonight. Thank you for your support. Thank you for friendship. And like the Prime Minister said today, Salam Aleikum, Shalom, and Shana Tova. Toda Rabba.
Elad, thank you so much for your meaningful words. Today was indeed a dream come true for so many Israelis, and I can say definitely for myself. I followed today's events through television, but also through Israel Bonds and through Israel Maimon, who sent pictures very generously, making us all jealous. And we will try once again to go to Israel to hear your reaction. I'm sure you're still feeling the incredible energy from the White House. Tell us what it feels like following today's historic event, Israel.
Thank you, Michal. Can you hear me now? Michal, can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Oh, great. Thank you. So thank you, Michal, and thank you, Scott, and thank you all for joining. You know what? We were sitting there in the White House lawn, not a very place to sit and wait. Beautiful scenery. And we were waiting from 9:30 until noontime. And I have to say, every moment that we waited, but I'm saying it like symbolically, every moment that we waited through those years to this moment that the four leaders came to the balcony, worth it. It was so exciting to see them getting out to the balcony because you saw the strength and the power and the normality, but also the future. You saw four leaders that took great decisions, great and brave decisions. And I thought what it projects to me, what it projects to the world. And what it projects to me is that it's legitimate to speak publicly with Israel. Israel is not the hidden boy that we cannot speak with him publicly. Israel is legitimate. We know, of course, we don't need anyone to say that we are here and we are here to stay. But seeing those four leaders, two additional leaders of the two Arab states standing and saying it's time to make peace in the Middle East that suffered so much, for me it was super powerful. And to continue to what Elad said, we heard that the missiles are coming from Gaza towards Israel. And I couldn't not think about what this picture projects to the ones that are calling to destroy, eliminate Israel, and to delegitimize us. I think that today's ceremony sent a clear message that we are here to stay. And the last thing I want to share with you, like Elad, I met so many people, colleagues from the Bahrain, from Dubai, but I met the president of the Jewish Council in the Emirates. And I promise all of you, Israel Bonds lay leadership, we have a connection that we are going with a delegation to, once the pandemic is gone, we are going with a delegation to the Emirates and then continue to Jerusalem. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עליכם ועל כל עמו ישראל ואמרו אמן. Thank you, Michal.
Thank you, Israel, for sharing your firsthand experience. And like you said, and like our homeland, Israel itself, the dream of peace was realized today, and it's only the beginning. In just a moment, we will conclude the evening in a way that will perfectly reflect our shared hopes for the new year and a future of peace, as three-time Israeli Singer of the Year, David Deor, accompanied by Gil Shochat, performed the timeless classic, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Be sure to join Israel Bonds 1 week from today, September 22nd at 3 p.m. New York time for a discussion with Senior Advisor to Prime Minister Netanyahu, Ambassador Mark Regev. Ambassador Regev will have timely updates to share, so be sure to register for this informative event. And as a reminder, you can continue to support Israel through investments in Israel Bonds by scanning the QR code in the U.S., calling the numbers, or visiting the websites you've seen throughout the evening. Please enjoy David and Guy's magical performance, and until next time, Leitraot and Shana Tova, Shana Shel Shalom.
The next song is a very, very famous song all over the world. It has been written by two Jewish writers, a writer and a composer, and they wrote it when they were in Russia after the pogroms, and they were imagining a beautiful place where they can be free, where they can live the way they want. They imagine Zion, Israel. After a while, Zion became Oz, and it has became one of the most beautiful musicals ever, The Wizard of Oz, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. But I'm always remembering what they meant when they wrote it. So I'm thinking not about an imaginary country like Oz, but about Jerusalem.
Star and wake up where the clouds are far behind. birds fly beyond